Hey guys, Paul Lynn here from PLCdojo.com. I want to talk to you today about giving you answers to those top 10 questions people are always asking me when they're thinking about getting into PLC and deciding whether or not it's something they want to learn how to do and, learn programming and all that stuff. All right, so question number one is, what brand of PLCs should I learn? There's Allen Bradley, there's Siemens, there's Delta and Automation Direct and Fanuc and all these other brands. Which one is going to make me the most money? Based on where I live, should I be learning Allen Bradley or Siemens? And don't worry is my answer. The reason is that all PLCs use the same 5 programming languages, okay? Those are defined by an international standard. So everybody, if I decide I'm going to invent my own PLC tomorrow and bring it to market, even though it's going to be a brand new PLC from a brand new brand with different software, the programming languages that I implement in my software to interact with the PLC is going to be those same 5 languages or some subset of those 5 languages. Maybe I'll just use 1 or 2 of those languages. But what I am highly unlikely to do is go out and just invent some brand new PLC programming language, because if I did, I'm not going to sell a lot of PLCs. Programmers don't already know it, it's not standardized, and therefore no serious company is going to want to invest in my technology. So don't worry about what software you're learning on, because really, once you know how to use one and you know how to program a PLC in any of those 5 languages or all 5 of those languages, you're going to be able to jump into other brands and use their software very easily. Question number 2. If there are 5 different languages, which one should I focus on? And in the beginning, people are thinking, "Ooh, learning one language sounds hard. There's no way I'm going to learn all 5. Let me just worry about one." That mentality is right and wrong. It's right because, yes, in the beginning, focus on only one language and get that one down and fully understood. And, then the other 4, you're going to be able to learn very, very, very quickly and easily, because most of the instructions and the circuits and everything are the same. It just looks a little different on your screen. So once you really learn the fundamentals of PLC programming in any language, translating that into the other languages is really a simple task. So, on one hand, don't worry about a lot about, oh my God, I can only learn one. Which one is it going to be? You're going to end up learning them all anyway. If you learn one, you will learn the other 4, because it's just very easy after you get that first one. Learning the first language is 70-80% of the work and difficulty. Learning the other 4 is the remaining 20, 25, 30%. Okay, so that's not even an issue. But my answer to the question is, which language should you start with? I'm going to recommend ladder diagrams, ladder logic, 10 times out of 9. And the reason is, even though you're going to see a lot of function blocks and you're going to hear a lot more interest in function blocks than ladders, ladder logic is old. It's passé. We don't like things that are old. We want to gravitate more to things that are new. I get that, but here's the thing. Aside from what you like and what you're interested in and the programs that you create, you're also, if you're working in this field, you're also going to be expected to be making modifications and adaptations to existing programs that you didn't create. And the fact is, most of what's out there, and the one language that's supported by pretty much every PLC and even most of your programmable relays, ladder logic is everywhere. even if it's not what all the cool kids are, talking about on Reddit and LinkedIn. Fact of the matter is, ladder logic is what's mostly out there, and it's what you're going to see the most. So start with ladder logic. Once you've got that, don't worry. You want to get into function blocks, you'll be able to, and it'll only take you a couple of days or so to really figure it all out and be up and running with function blocks. But my recommendation, start with ladder logic. Question number 3 is all of the people who have been exposed to Allen Bradley PLCs and they started looking at the software, they found out that Allen Bradley makes a few different PLC programming packages, and they see connected components workbench, and they say, oh, okay, that's one. And then they see RS Logix 500, and they say, okay, that's another one. And then they see Studio 5000. And real quickly, they take a look at those numbers and say, 500, 5,000. Well, as things progress and technology evolves, we usually go to higher numbers. Therefore, 5,000 must be the replacement of 500. Well, if there's a replacement out for 500, it makes no sense to learn 500. I should just learn 5,000, right? Wrong, okay? Unfortunately, Allen Bradley is just not real damn good at naming their stuff, okay? They're not as good at marketing as they are at creating hardware, all right? So here's the thing. You have CCW 500 and 5000, and those programming environments are all tailored to different families of PLCs that they make. And no, one family is not a replacement for another one. Rather, they're about complexity and durability. So you imagine you have your micro 800 devices. Those are, glorified programmable relays. They're really, just something for very small systems. You need to control a door and a light bulb when somebody hits a button or something like that, and you can throw one of these things in and get the job. Then you go up in complexity to the MicroLogix family of processors. And now you're talking about maybe a standalone water treatment system that has 20 valves and 3 pumps, and you need to control something of that complexity. Then you step up to control logics, and you have maybe a more complete production line, and this has 50 or 60 different sensors coming in, and it's controlling conveyors, motors, VFDs, temperature loops, pressure loops, and now you've got something much more advanced and much more complex. You're going to need much more I/O. You're going to need a processor that can process that information a little bit faster. Now you're up to the compact logics family of processors. So 5000 is not a replacement of 500. They are completely distinct families of PLCs, and if you're doing any PLC programming, chances are you're probably going to end up working with both. Both of these lines are still being developed, they're still being sold, they're still being supported. One of them is not being phased out. So no, 5000 is not a replacement for 500, and you should not neglect 500 and gravitate exclusively to 5000. Oh no, I only want to program the big PLCs. I don't want to get paid money for programming the small PLCs. There's no glory in that. I mean, who thinks like that? I want money for programming any PLC there is. If there's money on the table, I want to reach out and get it. So I want to know how to program everything, right? And so do you. Question number 4 is, I'm thinking about learning PLCs. what kind of computer do I need, or what kind of computer should I buy? Now, obviously, everyone's thinking laptops because a laptop is portable, and when you're talking about PLC programming, oftentimes that involves travel, that involves startups and commissioning and all this stuff. So laptop, definitely a smart idea. I'm a bigger fan of desktops, but I have to admit, for PLC programming, laptops are the way to go. That being said, you've really got, now you're talking about operating systems. Do I get a stupid old passe Windows box, a cool Apple Prestige box so I can impress all of my friends, or am I one of those elite hacker types that says, oh, no, you've got to have Linux, it's the best? And, the answer is Windows, okay? You have to have Windows, period. Whether you're running Windows in a virtual environment on your Mac or in your Linux computer, whatever, that's just an extra added layer of complexity and drain on resources that you can certainly do if you want to impress your friends and you're just a fan of one operating system or another. Fact of the matter is, and this isn't just my hatred for all things with apples on them, this isn't that. When you look at industrial software, automation software, all of that software is made for Windows, okay? There's very little software out there that's made for a Mac. They're not making Mac apps. They're making actual full PC software, right? And Linux, let's be honest with ourselves. If you're not running a server and you're trying to use it as a desktop environment, Linux accounts for about 1% of the computers in the world. Honestly, who's trying to invest a lot of money in making software for 1% of the world? Okay? So you need Windows. Even if you hate Windows the way I hate Apple, you are still going to need Windows if you want to work in PLC programming and automation. Now, the last thing to consider is specs and, how big of a screen do I need and all this. A 15-inch screen will do the job. But if you've got vision problems or you're one of those people that likes to have two different windows open at the same time, no problem with a 17-inch. As far as things like processor and RAM go, PLC and HMI software, all this automation stuff, is actually not particularly resource intensive. So can you get away with 4 gigs of RAM and an i3 processor? Yes, you can. But if you advance in PLC a little bit, you might get to the point that a lot of us do where you say, well, I've actually decided I'm going to keep virtual machines for my different PLC environments. I'm going to have one virtual machine that's specifically for TIA, one that is specifically for Allen Bradley, and then I do so much work for this one company in particular. I want a VM that's just got their software on it that, you see what I'm saying? You might end up growing into this thing enough that you're using multiple virtual environments. And in that case, while the PLC software isn't very resource intensive, running virtual machines absolutely is. So at that point, you might be looking at 16 gigs of RAM and up, and nothing shy of an i7 processor that's got virtualization features and stuff built into the chip, okay? As far as hard drive space, the software doesn't take up a whole ton of space. It's not like the latest AAA video games that take 150 gigs of space or something. PLC software is really pretty lean. And that being said, if you're running virtual machines take up a lot more space. So hard drive, if you've got a terabyte, you should be fine. It's not like you're going to be, working with 10 virtual machines and keep all of your software and all of your projects on this computer full time. If you're even halfway smart, you're going to have an external backup for all of this stuff, right? And you're only going to need on your laptop the stuff you're actively using. So, I mean, if you've got anything up to about a terabyte, you'll be fine. And if you want to get something more exotic and go over a terabyte, because maybe you're using this laptop for more than just PLC, certainly that's fine. And memory gets cheaper and cheaper, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, that's the answer. It's not a very specific answer. I can tell you need Windows, but as far as specs, it really just determined by how far along you are and how far you expect to be within the lifespan of this computer. If you see yourself getting to the stage within the next 2 or 3 years of needing multiple virtual machines, then drop a couple $1,000s and get that spec monster. If you're just learning, just starting out, and you think that by the end of 2 years, you're probably still going to be working on your very first job, then I would probably err on the side of a cheaper box. Something maybe south of $1,000 brand new should be fine. Question number 5 is, do I need to build a trainer? And for a lot of you, like, what is a trainer? A trainer is actual physical hardware that you put together where you've got an actual PLC and you've got some wiring and a power supply and you've got a few different buttons and light switches and maybe a little motor that you can control so that you can create PLC programs on your computer, load them onto this actual physical PLC, and then watch the little lights come on and push the buttons and watch the things flicker and the motor turn and things like that. My answer is a resounding no. Absolutely not. You don't need a trainer. And if you're thinking about building one or buying one because you've got just money coming out of your ears and you're just dying to get a new toy, I would still rather see you go on Amazon and buy some fun, ludicrous junk that has absolutely no use whatsoever. I would rather you go on Amazon and just buy some crap than spend money on a PLC trainer. The fact of the matter is, I've been teaching people how to program PLC for years and years, and I've been teaching them to do so without trainers. And how do you do that without physically touching it and seeing it on a real live PLC? Because nowadays we have simulators, and those simulators run the software the same way that a PLC does. And we create a program within a couple of clicks. It's running on the emulator or simulator, and we can interact with it right there. We can change the memory directly. We can simulate signals coming in. We can do all of that, and it's all right there on our computer. Okay? There's no benefit to having this physical trainer that you spend hundreds to thousands of dollars on that's taking up all this room on your desk. And in reality, all it's doing is slowing you down from learning PLC. If it only takes a couple of clicks rather than a download and transfer and wiring up to this thing and having your switch in between and configuring it and all that, why? Why? Because, well, now I can touch a physical button. And that's different from right-clicking and toggling a bit. It's the same thing. You're analyzing your logic. You're seeing how it flows and works. I'm yet to find anybody give me a compelling, convincing argument of why a trainer is better. They'll say things like, oh, well, you have to learn how to download the program to the PLC and upload the program. Really? Okay. And so by building your trainer with one PLC on it, that's going to make you an expert in downloading and uploading the program between all the hundreds of different models of PLCs out there, over all the different protocols using proprietary communication cables, Ethernet, Profinet, every other eNet, transferring with memory cards. really, that one PLC that you got on there, that's going to teach you all of that for all of those different brands of PLCs? Wow, tell me more. No, it's not. You're not going to get anything out of this trainer that you wouldn't get just learning on your computer. So, do I need a trainer to learn PLC? If you ask other people, you'll get other answers, especially if they're selling you trainers. If you're asking me or most of my 80+ thousand students, the answer is no, you don't need a trainer. Save your desk space, save your money. Question 6. I want to work in PLC. I want to work in automation, but I don't have a college degree. Do I need a college degree? Or, well, I know how to program PLCs. Is there some kind of certification that I need to attain? Go and pay $100, take a test, and get some kind of certification that says, yes, we in our infinite wisdom bless Paul Lynn and acknowledge that he is a PLC programmer. And I'm going to say it depends, okay? Do I have a degree in automation, electrical engineering, mechatronics, or anything really PLC and automation related? No, I do not. Have I ever attained a certification in any of these things? No, I have not. Okay? Have I made a lot of money doing the job, and am I fairly good at it? Well, yes. If I went and knocked on someone's door tomorrow and tried to apply for a job, do I have a high confidence that I'm the one that's going to get that job? Yes, I absolutely do. So, what about you? Well, it depends. Some countries in the world, you're nothing unless you've got a college degree. And I live in one of those places in Bolivia. Here, they honestly, and this isn't just me speaking from some degree of prejudice, which I do acknowledge, by the way, or something like that, but here, the businesses care much less about results and making money, and they care much more about paper. Here, paper is virtually a religion to the people here. They don't care who you are or what you've done or what you know or what you can prove. They are more interested in who you know, what school you went to, what classes you've been through, what certifications you've attained. And even if you're not particularly good, as long as you walk in with a stack of paper that's got your name on it this big, they're all too happy to hire you. They are really not results oriented in this country. Simple. Look at the businesses in this country, and that will kind of give that away. But where I'm from in the United States, it's a very different culture. I could walk into a place or not even walk in, send an email and say, hey guys, I'm Paul Lynn, I've done this and this. I'm just looking for some opportunity for work. So if you've got any projects you think I might be able to help you with, hey, let's set up a call. And the next thing you know, we're talking and they're saying, what have you done? Can you show us some examples? And once they see, wow, this guy really knows what he's doing. Hey, great. When can you start? We've got something we can send you now. How do we pay you? And how often do you want? And, and we're up and running in a couple of days. So I've gone from a very results-oriented culture to one that is really just all about dress and decorum, and they don't really go to work every day motivated by making money. They go to work every day motivated by prestige and tradition and culture and things like that just don't ever translate into hard cash. So wherever you live, There might be safety and security and industry regulations that require certifications. The companies that you want to work for might require degrees for everybody or everybody in the office, or it's impossible to say, and I'm not a global employment expert, okay? So please don't send me those questions saying, oh, I live in this country and I want to work in that industry. What do I need? How the hell should I know, man? I'm a PLC programmer. They don't give me this big book full of, the world's requirements in all industries and all jobs. I'm sorry, I don't know what. You're going to have to go talk to some recruiters in your area to find out. But what I can answer to this question is this. Is it possible to have a career in automation without certification and without a degree? Yes, it is. It is possible. I've done it and I'm still doing it. So will it be easy for you based on where you live? I don't know. But I can tell you that it is possible. Question 7. We are not all mathematicians, and in fact, in school, math classes were some of the worst nightmares that we had. I'm not one of those people. I loved math, but a lot of people, math is kind of the bane of their existence, right? And so I get those trepidatious questions of, I don't know about any kind of programming, but in my mind, programming is just math, numbers, math, numbers. And if that's the case, then to hell with this. This is not going to be for me. Do not worry. Most programming is not as numbers and math intensive as outsiders think. PLC programming, even less so. The fact is, most of the PLC programming I've ever done had math no more complicated than adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. There have been those very rare instances where I had to dream up calculations for things that had pre-calculus, trigonometry, or calculus level math in them. Those things were few and far between. And even then, most of the time it was finding the formula for something and then just basically creating that formula in the app. So it's not like I had to sit there with my calculator and my notebook and do a bunch of trigonometry or something like that. No. Worst case scenario, it was just reading an equation and recreating it programmatically. So if you are math averse, if numbers are not your strong suit, if you never learned to love formulas and equations, do not worry. Don't let that fear chase you away from PLC or any other kind of programming, because unless you're doing something like programming physics simulations in video games or building economic forecast models or something like that, chances are you're not going to be inundated with complicated math. Question number 8. How long does it take? I don't know anything about PLC programming, but I want to learn PLC programming. Paul, how long does it take? Will I be done by 6 p.m. Friday of next week, or is it going to take me until Sunday? PLC programming is not a simple little thing. It's not like teaching you how to play Go Fish with a deck of cards, all right? How long did it take me to teach you how to play Go Fish with a deck of cards? I don't know, 15 minutes, and I can have you playing with the best of them. But PLC programming is not that. You're talking about PLC and then HMI, creating the interfaces for the operator to communicate with the PLC and exchange information. You're talking about all these different families of PLCs, and there's quite a bit of information here. How long does it take to learn? Well, who are we talking about? Are we talking about Albert Einstein or Forrest Gump? Okay, who's the student? Are we talking about somebody who's been working in industry and automation for 5 years already? Or are we talking to somebody who's been sacking groceries at the local grocery store and just got out of high school a week ago. Okay, who's the person? Is this person trying to learn on their own, or are they taking courses? Are those courses hands-on, or are they purely theoretical? How fast does a car go? Right? There are cars that are lucky to go 70 miles an hour, and there are cars that go 250 miles an hour. So asking me how long does it take to learn PLC programming is like asking how fast does a car go and how much does a car cost. There are lots of different cars that go lots of different speeds and cost lots of different prices. Likewise, there are people that only need to learn how to get the basics done in PLC. Look, I've got one PLC that I'm using to do one project. I just want to know how to make this PLC do what I want it to do, and then I'm going to walk away from this thing. Well, hell, you can probably learn that in 2 or 3 days. So how long does it take this person to learn PLC programming? 3 days. That's the answer. And on the other hand, there's someone that says, I don't know anything about PLC. I don't have any experience with anything industrial or automation oriented, but I would like to learn how to program all 5 PLC languages. I'd like to learn HMI, SCADA. I want to learn the communications protocols. I really want to know everything there is to do with PLC so that I can qualify for as many jobs as possible. Well, that person is going to take months and months to learn to program PLCs. And heaven forbid, if that person isn't just working 8 hours a day to study, that person actually also has a job and is working 40 hours a week. And then let's say this person isn't the fastest learner in the world. It could take over a year for this person to learn to program PLCs. I can't tell you how long it's going to take you to learn PLC programming. What I can tell you is if you check out my 5 PLC programming courses on plcdojo.com, that is going to make it fast and easy for you to learn PLC programming without getting lost and getting stumped along the way. You'll walk out from those 5 courses with a lot of hands-on experience, a lot of projects to show off to people at job interviews, and you will have sampled a little bit of everything from, data logging and, database retrieval to HMI development, SCADA functions, several different PLC programming environments. I mean, with my 5 courses, yeah, you're going to learn it pretty fast. But still, how fast? That depends entirely on you. Just because they're my courses and I can tell you how many hours of content are in them, how long is it going to take you to process, retain, practice, and master that information? Man, your own mama doesn't know that. I certainly don't. Question number 9. Is there a future in PLC programming? Well, things change, things evolve. AI is going to put us all out of work one day. It's going to replace all programmers in the world within the next 48 hours. And that's when the robot apocalypse starts. And if all that's true, I guess there's no reason for me to learn PLCs today. And also, even if there wasn't AI, the way that things grow and change, I'm sure all these PLC programming languages are going to be thrown away and replaced with Python programming instead, or some other, hot button language that people are talking about. Industry 4.0 is going to make all of this obsolete, and pretty soon all PLC programs are only going to exist on the blockchain. Blah, blah, blah. I've heard and seen so many of these different promises come and go, and things have been disruptive and things have changed the technology landscape. But the funny thing is, PLC programming has kind of just stayed its ground and stayed the way it was. It hasn't advanced, it hasn't changed in decades. Why? When you think about technology, is in terms of computers and computer programming. Technology is always changing and evolving because there are new security threats, new legal requirements, new types of service. There's constant competition. There's a lot of things driving the constant evolution when it comes to computer technology and cell phone technology and video game technology. We always need better graphics, faster action, a more realistic experience. And, I understand that. But now think about automation. I have a factory. This factory has 100 machines. I need those 100 machines to make product all day long. And next year, I'm going to need those same 100 machines, and maybe I add 20 more. I'm going to need them to keep making the same product. I need them to make product consistently and accurately and not fail. I don't want downtime. I don't want broken processors. I don't want my whole production line to go down for the next 3 hours because Microsoft decided they want to force an update that's going to just shut us down in the middle of the day and we have no control over it. Right, Microsoft? Because they do that to me all the time at home. So that's the thing. In industry, when you're talking about, most industrial processes, we want stability. That's what's important. So whenever the guy knocks on the door and says, hey, I've got the latest, greatest, brand new, unproven technology, but I want to sell it to you for a lot of money and I want you to be the guinea pig. No. One, I'm not going to pay you for that privilege. And two, even if you were paying me, it's still probably not enough to pay someone $1 million to yank all of my existing controls out, put all of these new controls in, wire them up, redo all of my documentation, redo all my manuals, and then find out that things aren't working any better or they're actually working worse than they were before. If what I've got is working and I'm making millions of dollars a day, what is it going to take to convince me to change control systems? I've got Siemens controls in my entire plant, and here you come asking me to try an Allen Bradley processor in my next machine. Okay, I've got Siemens hardware and controls in my inventory if I need a replacement. My programmers know how to do Siemens, so if there's any issues or needed changes, they know how to do it all. Everything is on the same network and it's all Siemens, and here you come with a different brand. Please tell me what it's going to take to convince me to bring a different processor, different inventory, a different skill set into my plant now that I have everything good and everything flowing and everything consistent. It's never going to happen. No intelligent person is going to do this. So when you think about you and me, we've got to have the latest cell phone. We've got to have the newest stuff. And why? It's no big deal. I'm done with this phone. I throw it out or I sell it to somebody used, and I grab a new phone, log in, all my apps download automatically, and it takes me an hour and I've made the change. But when you're talking about an industrial operation, I'm not sitting there saying, oh, I want the latest technology. Please, when is the next time I can shut my whole plant down for a month and gut all the controls, throw away millions of dollars worth of technology, replace it with millions more dollars worth of technology, pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for engineers to redo everything and put all this new stuff in, and then get back up and running months later, and I haven't improved anything. I'm still making the same products, selling them at the same prices to the same people and at the same rate. Why would I do this? You see what I'm saying? That's the mentality that prevents PLCs from constantly evolving at this breakneck pace that you see happening in other technologies. For that reason, because we cherish profitability, sustainability, keeping things running smoothly, once we have proven products and technologies, we simply don't want to change. And 10 years and 20 years go by, and if we can still keep using the exact same models of PLCs, no matter how old and how outdated they are, if they're getting the job done and I can keep them running for cheap, I'm going to do it because that's what's going to make me profitable. So the question, is there a future in PLC programming? Nobody knows the future, myself included, but I will go out on a limb and say, don't worry. If you start learning PLC programming today, you will make enough money doing it for enough years that if anything should down the road come and disrupt automation and render all of that knowledge completely useless overnight, you will have still had enough time to make enough money to make the endeavor worthwhile. So again, nobody knows the future, and I'm not going to act like I do either. But yes, PLC programming is still very much worth learning, and yes, it's still going to be around long enough for you to make some money doing it. Question 10, last question, and oh baby, this is a big one for me. How much money can I make programming PLCs? Well, this is another one of those questions like, how long does it take a person to learn and how fast can a car go, right? How much money can I earn programming PLCs? I don't know about you. I don't know about where you live, and a lot of these things are regionally dependent. I also don't know how ambitious you are or how risk averse you are. If you go to you say, well, I don't want to move. I just want to stay where I'm at. There's only 2 places in town that even need PLC programmers, so I'm just going to go there and be an employee and work for them. Well, you need to go ask them how much you can make because they're the only ones that are going to be able to pay you, right? But if you say, no, I'm open to global relocation and, I'm willing to go wherever the money's at. And then I plan on, cutting my teeth in, a job. But 5 years later, I'm going to branch out and go independent and start my own automation company. Well, that's a very different story, isn't it? Now the sky's the limit. So if you're just working at the local OEM and getting paid as an employee, depends on where you're at, what country you're at in the world. But, in the US, for instance, you could be getting paid as low as about maybe $50,000, that's just kind of a guess. Maybe there's someone where you're at that's even cheaper than that. That would be hard, but maybe as low as $50,000 as an employee in the United States. Whereas if you get out on your own and you build up your automation company, you've got 5-10 employees, could you be making over $1 million a year? Well, yes, that's very easy and attainable, and I know people who are doing it. So how much can you personally earn programming PLCs? You tell me. You would know better than I would. And again, I'm not a career specialist. I'm not an industry expert. I know how to program PLCs. I am not hiring PLC programmers all over the world and contracting their services. And I'm sorry, I just don't have that level of insight. But if you're willing to make some sacrifices, move around a little bit and take some risks, the answer is, how much can you earn? As much as you'll ever need. So that's it. That's what I've got for you today, those 10 questions, and hopefully really good, solid answers that are going to kind of help you make a more informed decision whether or not this is for you and this is something you want to get into. If you do decide you want to get into it, there are a lot of different ways and a lot of different places to learn PLC, and quite frankly, most of them are good, most of them are effective. There aren't a lot of wrong answers when it comes to how to learn something. Whatever works best for you, that's obviously the best way to learn. But if you're not sure where to go or you think this might be for you, check out plcdojo.com. My courses are fantastic. I'm not just saying that because they're mine. I'm saying that because 80,000 people and more have learned to program PLC from my courses, and nobody has ever gotten lost. Nobody has ever gotten to a point where they say, oh, this is too complicated, I can't go on. If that has happened, I've never heard about it. But my courses are very effective, and they're also very, very low priced. They are easily accessible to pretty much everybody in the world. So if you've got a computer and you speak English, I'm telling you, you would have a hard time finding a better, faster, more efficient, and more complete way to learn PLC programming than at plcdojo.com. Okay. Enough commercials. That's all I've got for you today. If you like what I'm doing, if you like it, put a ring on it. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe and get some more of this in the future. Thanks for watching. You take care. Cheers.